At a certain point, you have to ask yourselves, why in the world is this the main thing that's being discussed right now?
I am attracted to women.
You're not gay.
No.
This, as it looks like Piers Morgan has some personal explaining to do about his relationships as well. All of this, as of course, we have some very interesting things to discuss when it comes to Nick Fuentes, that it looks like Congress just made that much more infamous and talked about. Senator Schumer just passed some interesting legislation. I think there's someone else that I think is more interesting to discuss that's young personally. But anyway, there are a lot of accusations against Nick allegedly using bots. Elon Musk, once again, for a second time now, came out and called him a Fed. Milo Yiannopoulos is going after him, as other people are saying he just provided a masterclass on the boomer, Piers Morgan, which even Milo admits was not equipped to handle that conversation. Now, the accusations about him botting and being a Fed are pretty interesting, and that's what I wanted to discuss in this particular video, as we wanted to look at the evidence, make our own kind of assumptions, and tell you exactly what we think is really going on here, as Matt Walsh has some very interesting things to say also, while, of course, Ian Carroll and Nick are now fighting as well, as Donald Trump is still trying to keep a very loose coalition that Nick says is already over. Is he correct? What in the world is really going on here? We're going to be discussing that and a lot more all here on this second channel that, by the way, just got monetized. It's awesome to have you guys be a part of this channel. It's brand new. Thank you so much for subscribing. It means the world to me. Now, let's get into it, as, of course, now Nick Fuentes is trending, as Piers Morgan tried to do his best to confront him, and I think he did a poor job, right? The line of questioning, the setup for gotcha questions were a little ridiculous, and it's tiresome how a lot of these people are just disingenuous, and how the older generation, let's just be honest with ourselves, falls for the same traps over and over again, as young edgelords are, of course, dominating them and walking all over them. Why are we talking about whether Nick Fuentes likes boys or girls? Why does that matter? Well, again, he has been made infamous, but Piers kind of going down that line of questioning, pressing Nick for not having relations with women. Some people see that as a good thing, especially very religious people, saying, yeah, I think it's kind of unique that in this type of glorified, over-sexualized type of short-term gratification, dopamine-riddled, S-obsessed world that we all share, that, hey, there's actually someone that doesn't play into a lot of those types of stereotypes and notions, and actually has a little bit of self-control there and is able to keep it in his pants. As some people are saying, he's lying, he's not telling the truth here. It's a weird thing to try to go after him, especially as now people are pulling up the receipts and talking about how Piers Morgan's wife took a 6-week sabbatical from their marriage. As people are saying, yeah, Piers Morgan was pressing Nick for not having relations with women, while his wife, quote, takes vacations from him to do it with other dudes. And again, the more you disingenuously and falsely try to just go after Nick, and again, I disagree with some of the things that he says, and I push back when I think it's appropriate to push back. I tell you exactly where I stand. I tell you exactly where I feel. I think having a genuine, honest, real conversation is very non-existent now, and therefore I try to facilitate that as best as I can, and I do my best, and I fall short sometimes too, but I do my best. But it's pretty clear, especially when you have things like this. Senator Schumer, just by the way, introduced a resolution to formally condemn Nick Fuentes because of his questioning of what happened in the 1930s in quote, nothing, the inauspicious influence of organized J's, praising Big H as awesome, advocating for the imprisonment of criminal blacks, and hosting H Fridays. You're making it more popular, you buffoons. You idiots, you dolts. Do you not understand what you are doing here? As a lot of people are saying, you're proving his point. You're by doing this in the first place. As of course, MTG just got a big lecture by 60 Minutes for not condemning this type of symbolic representation that doesn't really amount to anything and highlights just a clear and utter lack of time. While, of course, this really, in reality, is the biggest gift that Nick could get right before Christmas. Now, for me personally, I think Jared Kushner is another young man who's currently involved in Gaza, in Ukraine, with Warner Brothers, Discovery, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Venezuela, Gulf Cooperation, conflict resolution, electronic arts, private deals, equity firms. Yeah, I think that young man is a little bit more of a significance to our life and should be more talked about and should be more looked at in a more critical way than Nick, who is a podcaster. But that's the world that we live in. And again, Owen Schroyer says, why? I think the conversation, but again, it falls into this type of moniker that a lot of people kind of fall into as well here. Now, before moving on and getting into more other pressing matters, we just quickly wanted to tell you about wearechange.shop. It's my shop. As you can see here, look at this. Under the Christmas tree, which I have, I'm going to get better lighting for this. I'm going to make a star that's going to be very entertaining. I'm going to put some stuff in there. Look at that. Look underneath the Christmas tree. We got our line of supplements. The Essential Fatty, by the way, is holding up this camera that this is on. I have the ghettoest rig possible. This is like my second studio that became my main studio. My main studio broke down. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Wearechange.shop. You can get some really great, incredible supplements. One of the most powerful ones that a lot of people are deficient in and don't realize, and it's very hard to test, is magnesium glycinate. You take too much of it, you poop. And for me, it's incredible. I really, really do like magnesium glycinate, as of course it helps me with my sleep, it helps me with my rest, it helps me with my recovery, it helps me with my nervous system. And now, on its own, it helps you utilize things like vitamin D. If you want to utilize vitamin Bs, you take some fish oil, by the way. New studies highlighting how if you take fish oil, you're able to take in vitamin Bs that a lot of people are also kind of deficient in and don't realize it, especially if they're kind of like northern white European people. Now, the vitamin D, I think, has been the biggest game changer for me, but that's why we bundled it with the magnesium glycinate. You take the vitamin D in the morning, you take the magnesium glycinate with your last meal of the day. I have been doing that. Sleep score has been through the roof, and I want that for you. I want you to have a good sleep. I want you to be healthy. I want you to be happy. I want you to be the best, most recovered, incredible, amazing version of yourself, and that's why I created wearechange.shop. Check it out right now. They make the perfect stocking stuffers where you could get some really great, incredible gifts for your loved ones and give them the gift of health and personal well-being. Now, let's get to some of these clips here, as of course, before getting into the botting accusations, Elon Musk, once again, it's coming out and saying he's a Fed, responding to Colin Wright that's talking about a new report that allegedly shows how there's a coordinated illusion instead of a grassroots surge allegedly behind a lot of the popularity behind Nick. Nick responded to this by saying, I have testified to Congress under oath that I have never spoken to or cooperated with law enforcement. If you or dumbass Candace have any proof otherwise, then you could call up your friend, the president, and get me charged for perjury. Go ahead. I'll wait. The court responded here. Elon, you keep claiming this. And this is the second time, by the way. Last time he did this, it looked like there was a major ratio here. And then there was accusations of Twitter of blocking that particular ratio. Now, Milo has a rebuttal here, but the quartering came out. You keep claiming this. Clearly, you must know. What evidence is there? The world needs to know the truth. Will Chamberlain. More pressingly, he demonstratively and flagrantly violates your TOS on platform manipulation. You were principled enough to let him back on the platform when no one else would, and this is how he repays you. And again, I don't believe in deplatforming, but if someone is gaming and rigging the system, there's another conversation to be had here. Now, before getting into the botting stuff, which we will in a little bit, Milo Yiannopoulos, who has been recently on a big drama tear lately and has been kind of going at it with a lot of different personalities. He had some strong things to say about Benny Johnson. He had some strong things to say about Charlie Kirk and his wife, especially on the last Timcast episode. But he responded to Nick's response here by saying, another lie. He didn't answer the question. He pleaded the fifth. Check the transcript. I did. He pleaded the fifth to every question. That's what informants are told to do at Elon Musk here. And people are looking at it saying he did plead the fifth to most of it, but his lawyer did answer that question for him for clarification, as Milo says, yeah. And then people are going back and forth here. The minutia matters here. But people are saying, quote, I'm not a groyper, but he actually answered no to that. Also, invoking the Fifth Amendment is a solid legal strategy in a federal fishing expedition. Weak, non-existent investigations need voluntary statements to invent criminal charges, and there's no point in playing along. Yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with playing the fifth. I get pulled over. I believe the fifth. I believe the fifth. I know you're a nice guy. I know you're just trying to do your job. Sometimes my excuse is, sorry, officer, I'm not feeling too well. No disrespect to you, but I don't wish to engage in a conversation. I think that's a smart thing to do with any type of law enforcement out there. That's just, my own little 2 cents there, as there's some other people just saying, shut the F up. That's a good strategy too. I can agree with that. As now, Milo still keeps going on, saying, from now on, if I see otherwise, normal people insulting my intelligence by tweeting that Nick Fuentes is not a federal informant, you're getting blocked for life. I'm done. Now, a lot of people believe that what happened last night was a major success for Nick, especially against Piers Morgan. As people are saying, absolute masterclass by Nick Fuentes. Note how Piers also has shaming attacks and is left floundering when it doesn't work. They have nothing if you don't flinch.
At least 6 million Jews. So when you say he's very fucking cool, Jewish people watch this.
They were discussing the funny mustache guy, right? Again, I'm not the biggest fan of the mustache guy. Whatever. The mustache guy existed. There's history that people are discussing. I don't see it as relevant to what's going on right now, but this is clearly a very pressing issue, which I think is ridiculous for a lot of people that use this for outcry. And there's so much lies, there's so much propaganda out there. I don't know who to believe. You know who I believe? I believe my family. My family and their loved ones have a very interesting tale to talk about what happened during that time period that my family went through, that my family lost a lot of relatives. And personally, I think it's a little reductive, but what Nick is doing here is he's clearly triggering them. And when it triggers them, he decides not to back down, doesn't flinch, and he shows how ridiculous their point is to be kind of offended about his type of viewpoints. And again, I don't agree with his viewpoint. It doesn't mean you have to be offended. And literally, when you are, you kind of spread his ideas like wildfire.
Who has a brain, right? And at some stage, that brain is taking you off these rabbit warrens.
Is this an interview or is this a lecture? Can I respond to what you're saying?
I want you to explain why you think it's fine to say how fucking cool.
Yeah. And how dare you? You better respond. And it's like these shaming attacks. They don't work. They don't work. They never will work. And Piers did a very poor job. Milo says, in some ways, Piers Morgan was poorly equipped to handle Fuentes. Insufficiently briefed by producers, and there's a generational issue. But one thing Nick absolutely will not be able to do is threaten or intimidate Piers Morgan with the usual Groyper BS. Kids don't have a clue. As Piers Morgan tweeted, all I did was remind Nick of a story he told on his own show about his father, which implied he was racist. It was well reported at the time. Nick, again, then kind of was not that happy with Piers Morgan for talking about his father, who was a private citizen in front of millions of people. And of course, a lot of this is also so personal. And I'm like, can we not just make it personal? Can we just stick to the issues and the debates and the topics of discussions here? Why in the world are we going off like we are? Now, anyway, there are accusations that Elon responded to. saying an organization called NCRI published a report today claiming with zero proof that my engagement on X is botted. This is the same group that said Christ is King is, quote, not good for the Jays. And they are partnered with the ADL, Soros Open Society, and the UN. Quote, just another Matrix attack. Bradley Martin, I wonder when they recognize that this stuff will only elevate you further. Exactly. You're building up the fire that you're trying to stop. You're pouring gasoline on it. You buffoons. Like, you deserve everything that you're getting. Milo posted a New York Post article here. Nick Fuentes may be racist, but he relies on Nigerian and India to fuel his popularity online. As, quote, a new analysis of the firebrand tweets or show that he's boosted online by a foreign army of bots, mostly originating in countries which want to destabilize the United States, according to an investigation. Again, I need to see the proof here. Milo says it's now an established fact that Nick Fuentes' popularity is mostly fake, an illusion created by foreign bots, networks, and organized raids. Whether that's true or not, it's also true that his popularity is as popular as it is, predominantly because people keep attacking him unfairly and being not fair to him, right? If you look at his kind of ascendance, it was time after time where people were very vicious and very mean, and he just responded to a lot of the stuff by becoming more vicious and more mean. And then people were like, "Oh, he's able to stand up to the cancellation. He's able to stand up to this." Awesome. That's admirable, and that's why people admire everything that happens here. And that's why I think we need more of a nuanced, real conversation on it, and not this fake outrage-generated bullcrap one that is like Jerry Springer. Like, stop it with this like nonsense. This is crazy. Now, Matt Walsh had an interesting take on all of this, saying, "Gotta call it like I see it. I read through the report, and I'm not convinced. It's a Soros-funded organization, which means I don't trust it to begin with. Also, the mythology seems weird to me. I know everyone wants to believe that Nick's popularity is inorganic and bot-driven, but the fact on the ground don't seem to support that theory. He gets a ton of live views on every show he goes on, including his own. That doesn't happen if your engagement is fake. That's true, right? Because if it was only just like one part of it, okay, but now it's a lot of all these other platforms, so he's botting all these platforms at the same time." And Matt Walsh then kind of continues on saying, there is a lot of fake engagement. There is. A lot of them are just foreign bot. I've been screaming about this like 15 years ago. Even longer, I think, specifically saying, yeah, the governments are using bots. The Israeli government started to do it first, by the way, and then all the governments started following suit, and they started to put fake likes, fake dislikes, comments, and tried to engineer conversations to a point where they literally were gaming and rigging the system. So this was happening 15 years ago. It's happening now. It's pretty serious, and we have to always question what's in the algorithm, because what usually is a reflection of what's happening on social media is not the reflection of what's happening in the real world. A lot of the elections have proved that. Now, Matt Walsh, there's a lot of fake engagement in the podcasting and political commentary space. So a lot of people just buy it. There's another platform that's like the viewerships are just like not there, and the way that they count it is just not fair. And then they treated us not fairly. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Quote, it's usually easy to spot. It's someone who only posts boring BS, has no real fan base, no influence, and yet randomly gets tons of retweets or views or content that nobody seems to care about or talk about. That does not describe Nick Fuentes as much of as you might want it to be. Yeah, and listen, I disagree with some of his assessments. I disagree with some of his takes, but Matt Walsh is right here. And we have to understand when we come from it from this type of perspective. And again, there's other people pushing back here. Rex here, Rex Jones came out and says, "Get back to work, Matt Walsh," as that's been kind of an attack by Nick against him. So Nick has also been attacking him. So for him to come out and say, "Hey guys, let's look at this. I don't see the data. I don't see anything else here is relevant." James Lindsay says, "Everything I don't like is Soros funded. One grant Ike 7 years ago, and they never repeated and recognized as a mistake. But you have some unity to protect here, don't you, Matt?" Milo responded, "Could you stop being pathetic? for 5 seconds and maybe not grovel to the most poisonous person in politics? 1, they admit it, screenshots everywhere. 2, his own analytics leaked 3x. Post employee's testimony. Do your research or shut up and stop debasing yourself. Tragic. Jamie Mitchell. Bots can very easily become viewers of a stream to inflate its numbers. Who do you think is right here? Do you think it is Matt Walsh and Nick? Or do you think it's Milo and Elon? Why did my camera zoom in again? Okay, how do I... Anyway, boomer time. I think if I make hand gestures, they like zoom in or out. I am a total boomer. Anyway, I still never got the chance to talk about the Ian Carroll, Nick Fuentes kind of debate. If you want me to do a video on that, let me know, and I will. Down in the comment section below. What do you believe, 1 or 2? Let's start that conversation. There's still other stuff that he had to say about our modern day politics that I think is a little bit more relevant. But for me, man, I wish we could talk about actual politicians and not influencers. Oh, I wish that could happen. But these videos seem to get a lot of views. Anyway, thank you so much for supporting me. Thank you so much for supporting your own individual health and personal well-being and getting the supplements on wearechange.shop. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys doing that. And this is why I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on Luke Rudowski 76. Weird name. You probably won't be able to spell it. It's okay. I love you guys. Stay tuned for more on this brand new channel. Finally got monetized. Praying to the algorithm overlords to survive.